Order. So thank you for coming to the 2024 annual budget hearing for the Budget Committee. There's myself, Andrew Matisse, there's Ben Canary, Mike Standifer, William Knapp, Brock Ehrlers, Elena Colby, and Martin Osterloh. Let's see, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. All right, before I begin, I want to thank Dave Stack, Cheryl Lindner, Marcy Kelly, and Dwayne Ford, and all the select board, the school board, and all the department heads who spent a lot of time putting together this budget. And I also want to thank Connor for helping set up tonight's public hearing. So to begin with the town budget, the tax rate was reduced by 36 cents per thousand to $6.57 per thousand. And that's a 5.2% year-over-year decrease. The operating budget was down about $630,000, which brings it to $11,428,461. That's down 5.2% year over year. As for the warrant articles, that was up $2,700,000, bringing it to $6,398,700. That's a 75% year over year increase. However, a significant amount of those warrant articles are covered through state grant funding and from transfers from the capital reserve that we've been saving for many years. So that brings the total gross budget up about $2 million, bringing it to $17,827,161. Revenues were up $3.2 million, which again, that's where a lot of those incoming grant funds and capital reserve transfers come in through. That brings the revenues up to $9,804,031, up 50% from year over year. Net appropriations were down $1.1 million, bringing it to $8,023,130, leaving us with a net taxable appropriations being down $480,000. So the taxable portion to the taxpayers is $8,598,630. So really what's impacting the operating budget is this is the first year it's the end of the power plant settlement payments, so we no longer have to make that $1.4 million settlement payment. There were rising health insurance costs. There's 3 elections this year. There was a 5% increase to wages, which is a 3% COLA plus a 2% wage chart adjustment. There's also the addition of a police sergeant and the replacement of a police cruiser vehicle. That shows up on the budget and not on the warrant article. As for the charts, I've provided in the handout some charts for you to see at your leisure. I won't go through that in detail in this hearing, but you're welcome to review it, and it just kind of helps give a visual understanding for those like me who like visual graphs over numbers. So anyways, the revenues, what impacted the revenues was, as mentioned earlier, the withdrawals from the capital reserve and the state grant funding. Motor vehicle fees were up over 4%. There was a significant amount of interest earned on our deposits at 5.6% interest earned. That was up 100% year over year. And on top of that, the ambulance fees were up 14%. So now going into the warrant article details, you'll see a lot of the items here I'll put down on the bottom, CIP recommended deposits. So it just kind of shows that these were planned expenses. Because the warrant articles appear to be pretty high this year, we wanted to make sure that we were able to show that these are planned. So warrant article number 4, that's for the reconstruction of the River Road Bridge. That's a project cost of $1,491,800. That is mostly being funded through state grant funding available this year only, and the remainder is being funded through withdrawals from the capital reserve. So that, because of that timing coming in from the next grant funding, it was recommended by the CIP committee to help, to pull it in from next year to this year. Warrant Article 5 has to do with funding the capital reserve accounts, totaling $948,500. That is a CIP recommended deposit. Warrant Article number 6 is the replacement of the drainage culvert on Bobog Road. That project's expected to cost $800,000 and funded through the Bridge and Highway Construction Capital Reserve Fund. That also is a CIP plan project. Warrant Article number 7 is the annual paving of town roads. That's $570,000 funded directly through taxation. Warrant Article 8 is funding the capital reserve accounts for the community building of $500,000 funded directly through taxation. Warrant Article number 9 is the transfer of funds from the Recreational Revolving Fund to the Community Building Capital Reserve Fund in the amount of $150,000. Warrant Article number 10 is the safety improvements right up the street on the Falcon Way White Rock intersection. That's got a project cost of $361,600. That was a delayed expense, and it's planned for this year. Warrant Article 11 was the funding of the capital reserve accounts for the bridge and highway construction. There was money received, so it just allows us to receive that money, the grant money, and deposit into capital reserve fund. Warrant Article number 12 is the purchase of a 6-wheel dump truck and equipment for the Department of Public Works. The vehicle is expected to cost $273,000, $273,600, funded through the Public Works Capital Reserve Fund. That is a planned expense. Just to forewarn you, there are 24 warrant articles, so I'll try to get through them fairly quickly. Warrant Article 13 is the purchase of a backhoe for the Department of Public Works. That's an equipment cost of $185,000 funded through the Bridge and Highway Construction Capital Reserve Fund. That is a CIP planned expense. Warrant Article number 14 is to replace the HVAC system at the DPW office. That is expected to, it's a project cost of $152,000. Funded through the Capital Reserve Fund, and also a planned expense. Warrant Article number 15 is the purchase of a command vehicle for the fire department. The vehicle is expected to cost $102,400, funded through the fire department Capital Reserve Fund. That too is a CIP planned expense. Warrant Article number 16 is the purchase of the Jaws of Life for the fire department. That has an expected equipment cost of $94,500, funded through the Fire Department Capital Reserve Fund. That is also a planned expense. And let's see, Warrant Article 17 is the Phase 3 renovation of the municipal office building with a project cost of $85,100, funded through the Municipal Building and Grounds Capital Reserve Fund. That too is a CIP planned expense. Warrant Article 18 is the purchase of the forestry truck for the fire department with an expected vehicle cost of $79,400, funded through the fire department capital reserve fund, and it's also a CIP planned expense. Warrant Article number 19 is the purchase of 2 striker cots with an equipment cost of total equipment cost of $75,000. It's got an expected end of year life this year, so it was pulled ahead from the next 2 budget years into this year, and that is going to be funded through the Fire Department Capital Reserve Fund. Warrant Article number 20, we're almost there. Warrant Article number 20 is conducting a property assessment revaluation that's to happen this year. That is expected to cost $71,500, and it's funded through the Capital Reserve Fund specifically for that activity. That is also planned. Warrant Article 21 is the purchase of a K-9 police cruiser. This is different than the cruiser that's in the operating budget. This is a cruiser cost of $60,800, funded entirely through the Police Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. That is a CIP planned expense. And for the final stretch, we've got the warrant article number 22, the purchase of a pickup truck for the Department of Public Works. It's a vehicle cost of $59,800, funded through the Public Works Capital Reserve Fund. That is a planned expense. Warrant Article 23 is the purchase of a lawn tractor at $49,300 to be funded through the DPW Capital Reserve Fund. The goal of this one is to improve labor efficiency, so we'll see some benefits on the labor side. This is a planned CIP expense. And finally, warrant article number 24 is the reconstruction of the Gosling Field parking lot at $23,000, $23,900, funded from the Recreational Improvement Capital Reserve Fund, and that also is a planned expense. So I'm going to open it up for public comment. Just when speaking, please state your name, your full name, and your home address. All right, I'm not hearing any comments. Oh. For the warrant articles? So it's up 2,747,000, but some of that is also being funded through grant funding. Anyone else?
Eric Guys, 55 Bow Center Road. Whereabouts is the culvert on Bowhog Road? The intersection of Dean and Bowhog. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Robert Luper, can you go back to 23?
The lawn tractor?
Okay. And the online version has a withdrawal rate that's different from the
Let's double check that.
What does that have, Bob?
I'm sorry?
What's the online version have?
49.4 is what you're withdrawing for a purchase of 49.3.
Oh, I see.
Different $100.
Yeah, there just appears to be a $100 difference. I don't know, is this just a yeah, is it just a typo? Did you catch that? It's just a typo in the second portion. It needs to be 49,300.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I figured. I just wanted to make it.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. All right. Oh, go ahead, sir. What was that again? Yep. Oh, Mike has the floor. Well, hold on. The sir behind us has the floor.
Back to the tractor.
Sure.
You did mention that the purpose of that was labor saving. Could there be some explanation as to how that labor savings would actually be utilized? Would it be a headcount reduction, or how does that compare?
The lawnmower that you use now is a 5-foot mower. This is a 8-foot mower. And so the guy has to do like 3 passes to get the field to the condition they're in now.
Sure.
I guess you could save on lots of labor and,
The labor doesn't show up unless somebody loses weight.
efficiency is going to happen.
We'll be able to get more done. Okay. Just be clear on that, because there's nothing coming off the budget. Just get more work done.
All right. Andy Foot, or I'm sorry. What was? What's your name and your address? Thanks.
The beautiful new pavilion put up by the Rotary. Go check it out, use it.
All right, any last comments before I move on to the school budget? All right. All right, now for the school budget. There's a total tax rate increase of $1.11 per thousand, bringing it to $19.47 per thousand. That is a 6.05% increase year over year. So the school district budget is up $2,020,243, bringing it to $35,720,386. There are no new bonds this year. There are other the total of all the other warrant articles is up $537,860, bringing it to $2,027,231. The total warrant article appropriation thus becomes $37,747,617, up to about $2.5 million. Considering the revenues being up $600,000, bringing the revenues to $7,937,025, with a net appropriation being up almost $1.5 million, bringing it to $29,810,592,000. I said that backwards. Sorry, $29,810,592. At the end of the net of all the school taxable appropriations, it's a net increase of $1.3 million, bringing it to $84,737 at 6.13% year-over-year increase. So the breakdown of all that, the local school tax rate is up $1.01 per thousand, bringing it to $17.61. Then you add in the state school tax rate at 10 cents per thousand. That's bringing that, or the increase per thousand, bringing it to $1.86 per thousand. And the total of all that is up $1.11 per thousand at $19.47. So that's where that first figure comes from. So I'd like to draw your attention to the school packets, page 4, 5, and 6. As you follow, this is where the school has kind of provided a couple of graphics that may help you better digest a lot of these numbers. I won't go through it in detail here. There's an interest in time. And there's a breakdown on your handout that just kind of shows how the different schools are, with all the different function categories are divvied up. So the things that are impacting the operating budget this year is for the other outlays, the first bond payment for the BES renovation hits this year. It's a $1,108,863 increase. There's a 300. We probably talked to that in a little bit. There's a continued contribution to the CIP plan of $1 million, so this is saving for future expenses. Salaries saw a 4% wage increase, and there was an addition of the coordinator and equity wellness position. This is a position that's already existing, but being funded through state grant funding. Now this year it will show up on ours. The benefits increased 21% due to health insurance and 4.7% due to dental. Contracted service, there was a huge decrease in special education tuition of $450,000 and a substantial increase in special education contracted transportation, about $88,900. And there was a huge decrease in diesel consumption of about close to $50,000. The warrant articles, there's not quite as many here, so we'll go much faster. Warrant Article 3 just has to do with taking the $90,000 from the Dunbar portion and deposit it to the Capital Reserve Fund. And then Warrant Article 4 is to expend that into the paving upgrade at BMS. So it really covers the Dunbarton portion of that expense. The Warrant Article 5 is a deposit to the Athletic Fields Capital Reserve Fund of $56,000. And then Warrant Article 6 allows for the purchases of athletic equipment totaling $46,000. And that's to be funded from the Capital Reserve Fund for athletic fields and facilities. Warrant Article 7 is the deposit to the Bow School District Capital Reserve Fund of the $1 million. So this is what I had mentioned earlier. And Warrant Article 8 is the list of capital improvement projects. That there's a handout there that you can kind of see the details if you want to see it. But there's a total project cost of $745,231, and those are planned. So I want to open up to public comments. Again, just state your name and your address. Warrant Article 2 is for the budget that we just talked about. Warrant Article 1 is,
Reports of patients and auditors where the superintendent speaks or the board can give out reports. I'm sorry, what? Oh, so warrant article 1 is a non-financial article. It allows the meeting to have the superintendent speak if they would like, or the board sometimes hands out awards to past board members, things like that. And then 2 is the budget.
yes.
Yes, that's in the warrant article that lists all the things that we're purchasing. They're all pretty small, scoreboard, turtles, things like that.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't bother to list them all out. I probably should have. But there, as he said, it should be in there, the warrant articles, which is on page 2. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Page 1. Yeah, multi-sport scoreboard, lacrosse goals, track hurdles, throwing cage. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mike Mayo, South Fuller Road. On the schedule prior to the warrant article, there was a notation about special education tuition, but there was an increase in transportation. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Could you help me understand why would there be a reduction in tuition that presumably would be the name? Yet there's an increase in transportation costs.
Dwayne, you want to take this one, or?
I can speak to that. So this out-of-district tuition doesn't necessarily mean that a student's receiving transportation, so that could be for a residential setting as an example. The transportation across the board has skyrocketed, so that represents students who are being transported to day programs, not residential programs.
Yes, sir.
Eric Dias, 55 Old Center Road. What does the coordinator of equity and wellness do?
Marcy, do you want to take this one, or do you want me to make it? I feel like it might be best to
Sure.
explain that one.
Sure, so the coordinator of wellness and equity is focused basically in 3 areas. So multi-tiered systems of support to each of our buildings, a framework that we use to determine when kids need intervention, in time intervention. So that person's coordinating the efforts across the district. The other area is professional development and training, so that's for staff, students, and our community. And then overseeing our district wellness initiatives.
So it's like medical and
Nothing
mental
medical,
health?
nothing medical.
Yes, sir.
Rubber three-wheeler
Yeah, there was definitely some discussion around this. In the prior years, I believe they deposited $1 million, so they kind of want to keep up with that status quo on that. So it was recommended to actually reduce that, but we voted as a committee and to keep the initial request of $1 million.
Okay.
Yep.
Bob, as you know, there wasn't really a CIP for a long time, so this really has to do with, we need to catch up if we're not going to bond in the future.
Right, understood. I wasn't sure if the school board was recommending $1 million or 800,000, and the budget committee was differing with the amount, and it went from one to the other. But it sounds like it kind of went back and forth.
Yeah, I believe it started at $1 million, there was a discussion, and it ended up at $1 million.
Okay, thanks.
Any other, Andy?
Andy came with your argument. On the school budget slide, where it talks about an operating budget, you have the salaries, 4% increase, 21% increase in health insurance, 4% increase in dental, and the grant that we lost with the DIP guy position. Is there a dollar value we can associate with the 4%, the 21%, and the 4.7?
Yeah, Dwayne, I think I'd like to hand this one off to you.
No, hold on to my machine here. So wages in total are 502,000 increase. Now, for the whole budget, that's 2.91%. Benefits are up 684,000. Of that, health insurance is 555,000. What was the last one? Well, I just gave you, dental is a negligible amount, $4,400. That's not a big, part. I mean, really what drives our benefit budget is health insurance, retirement system, and FICA.
And the last one was lost the grant, so what was the town number of the
So the net impact of that one position is 87,000. That's all in, that's salary.
That's this year, was it same next year?
No, because we've got 3 more months of the grant in the budgets that's being proposed, July, August, and September. So 9 months general fund, 3 months grant.
We did
87.
87 this year, and then the following year, what about that, like 9 and add 3?
Yeah, I mean, that'll give you a pretty good idea. I mean, before we did some changes with the budget committee, the full impact was about 140, but then we had the 3 grants, so that made it 127. But next year, health insurance will be different, wages will be different, that kind of thing.
When we move that position, all of that position, did we continue to use the previous position that the individual appointments had? So we're putting back in, for previous position and this position still?
That position exists now, but it's 100% grant funded.
No, yeah,
Oh.
DEI was new, but we still have her position she came out of before.
Oh, yes, that was a school counselor position that we filled with somebody this school year.
This is in addition to this.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Mike Mayo, South Bow Road again. I'm sorry if I'm hung up on this, but back to the decrease in the special education tuition. The language that's used in the commentary that was used, put a percentage on that, and then second, follow-on question would be, is that a trend, is there a projection that that's going to continue? And if so, how are other elements in the special education section of the budget affected?
Okay, so you're asking what's this percent change and, yeah,
So a $450,000 change to the budget is 1.3%. 1.3%, so it is, I mean, that's a significant change. Now, what I would say, and I have people I think that can help me make sure I don't misspeak on this, but special education tuition is really a year-to-year thing. I mean, people get placed, come out of placement, move in, age out. We have a preschool population that comes in. I mean, we could have a 3 or a 4-year-old student come into the district and be placed. Now, this is not a large number of students. I think Bo is fortunate that we don't have many students that are not in our school some students that, for a variety of reasons, aren't in our schools in our place. In terms of transportation, we handle our in-district specialized transportation with our own buses. So we do that. What we don't have the capacity to do with either equipment or drivers, or in this instance both, is those out-of-district trips that go to other schools for day place students. That sort of charge per day has gone up dramatically. And I think there's a couple reasons. They're having trouble finding drivers, so they're paying more. There's less people in that market. There's less people who are doing those kinds of transportation trips. So that has gone up from what used to be $200 or $300 a day per trip to upwards of $600 per trip, depending on where you go. And we have some trips that are going quite a distance. You know, we'll have students that are placed in schools in Massachusetts or in Maine or places like that. So these aren't like quick trips either. So, no, I think that trend is not changing. I think that's going to continue.
I'm not hung up on the 80,000. That 450,000 is a forecasted reduction in tuition because you expect tuition to that requirement that they started to back pay.
You know, the amount of money that we expect to spend for that type of service, those out-of-district tuition students, is projected to be significantly less than the present year. And that's where the 450 comes from.
No, I'm really confused. Did you just say that you expect expenses to reduce by 450 or tuition?
Tuition. So that could
That
be
one line.
a student who ages out of the system, moves to a different community.
Follow-up question I had remaining unanswered. Other expenses, and if you're forecasting reduction in students, doesn't stand the reason that other expenses, set aside transportation, would reduce with it.
Not necessarily, I can tell you that this number could represent one student.
450,000. One student.
And I think that's the thing that needed to be said, is that you're looking at a number and you're thinking X number of students, and the language you used, Mike, had to do with number of students. But in the special education world, one student can, be very expensive. So it's never the same 2 years in a row. The number of people that we have to help them, the transportation, every year it changes. We actually hired someone 3, 4, 5 years ago to really just focus on that, because the services that you give, any individual service can add up. So that was a good move.
Thank you.
And for some of those areas where I didn't provide extensive details on those charts for the percentage decreases, you'll find a lot of that on this sheet, on the school packet handout. So it might help you get a better sense for yourselves if I didn't explicitly call it out in the slides. Yes, sir.
Robert, if I have one more question. Okay, so I'm just curious, has the budget committee, assuming that the budget committee votes to agree to the proposed budget, goes before the town votes for all of them, has the budget committee put the two together to come up with an overall effect on budget taxability?
The overall effect of the sum of the two?
Well, you have the school with the 23 million, up 6.13%, and you have the town
I didn't bring
side
a calculator.
at 9 million, but it's down 5.3%. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. Well, it's the overall impact.
I think it's 75 cents.
Yeah, it is.
75 cents?
Yes.
Up for the school,
Up for, if you combine them both.
oh, nine, oh, up for that.
And that doesn't include the county, obviously, which is having that.
No, I like that figure. I think I'll keep using that in the future.
75 cents per thousand. And considering we're putting $1 million away in the CIP, and that it's the first year of the big bond payment.
That's assuming everything passes.
Yeah, that's not horrible.
All right, great questions. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Yes.
So the school system has a bargaining unit, and every 3 years? Every 3 years, there's a bargaining, they sit down, they bargain, they work it out with the teachers' union, and they come up with a 3-year plan of increase in wages. It's all set in stone. You can't touch it. But that's where it comes from. It's coming up right now, isn't it? Yeah, this summer.
School board negotiates with our EA.
The school board has assistants, though, isn't there?
They hire counsel.
Higher council, yeah.
All right, anything else? All right, I guess we'll call the 2024 public hearing for the town and school budget. Thank you.
We can do that. Woo!